Hey, what's up? So today I'm gonna talk about a couple of things probably, but the main thing I wanted to talk about is so according to the Buddha and the Dharma, what are the conditions for societal collapse? So I was gonna talk about why society is collapsing, why things are not good, why there's such a big divide, and the consequences of such conditions. I'm not gonna blame anyone in particular. I'm just gonna be exploring the conditions for the current state of things. Just how the Buddha does. The Buddha, he doesn't blame, he simply says this is conditioned, these are the conditions for this particular situation. So I'm gonna be drawing a lot on Digha Nikaya 27, which is a sutra in which the Buddha describes the slow degradation of society, lifespan, all of these things, longevity, ethics. So I'm gonna be going over ethics and conditions for the collapse. So the first condition, right, and everything else sort of follows from that. The first problem is, and it has happened long ago, it's not today's problem. This is how I'm gonna basically explain how immorality emerged, why ethics are such a rarity today. So the first thing that went wrong is our societies, our civilizations, whatever they were, they did not take care of the impoverished, right? So the Buddha said, if you don't give property and food to the needy, right? And I know this sounds idealistic because today this is not possible today, okay? I'm talking about how it started, right? So because there was a great divide, there was poverty and not poverty, and because the rulership of the time did not give property and food to the needy, poverty arose. From that condition, poverty appeared, right? With the arising of poverty, right, stealing arose. Why? Because people didn't have enough, right? They started stealing. So that's the first immorality that arose from something greedy, not taking care of the lower class, not taking care of the needy, not giving them shelter, right? Then survival was the main priority, the main condition. So instead of people prospering, or at least not having to survive, survival arose as a condition. And because of that, stealing arose, taking what should not be taken, taking what's not given, because people needed to survive, right? And because of stealing, right? Stealing's easier with weapons, right? Taking, pillaging, whatever. Because of taking, weapons arose. You needed weapons. It was easier to steal. You needed power, right? And because of weapons, and because you wanted to stop people from stealing to, tell others, killing arose. The killing, the taking of life arose, right? Whew, I'm a little out of breath. The taking of life arose. And because stealing, taking of life arose, right? A justice system arose, like, let's say police, law, right? These things arose, right? And because now punishment arose, right? Lying arose, because people wanted to hide their misdeeds, right? So lying arose, right? And then because lying arose, right? Divisive speech arose, because now people started talking trash about each other. This one lies, this one steals, this one takes. And also harsh speech arose. So being harsh to each other, right? Mistrust arose, not trusting each other. And poverty increased. And because poverty increased, the need for survival increased, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? So greed increased. Because people now, they didn't care about others, they only cared about their own survival, right? So greed increased. So because we don't take care of the needy, right, immorality follows as a consequence of those conditions, right? It's easy to be moral when you're not fighting for survival. That's easy. Like for me, for example, I'm not necessarily fighting for survival, right? Morality becomes much easier, right? So because of the degradation, because of poverty, because leadership is greedy, they do not take care. Leadership doesn't, let's take care of our people. It's how much money can I make? How much can I get for myself? How many people can I fuck over? So I can take their money, so I can have more. So because this fundamental problem, we don't take care of the lower class, that's where stealing becomes more prominent, taking of life becomes more prominent out of greed. Wars, hatred increases, anger increases, resentment increases, conflict increases. And it all starts at poverty. It all starts because for some reason society does not want to take care of the needy, right? And then the thing is, like, you have to, well, I'm gonna bring in reincarnation, but the thing is, okay, but now we have people who aren't in poverty, who lie, steal, manipulate, murder, whatever, right? So that's the thing. Because karma, because reincarnation, see, those tendencies were conditioned long ago, right? And someone may reincarnate and be in a better position, but his past tendencies of stealing, lying, deceit, greed, hatred, delusion are now cultivated from his past life of poverty, for example, right? So now society as a whole degraded morally, right? There's just, like, when I see the Dharma is taught gradually, right? And often it doesn't start with ethics, but ethics is one of the first things the Buddha teaches. And these days, when I try to talk about ethics, right, don't take what's not given, no taking of life, no sexual misconduct, no false speech, and no intoxication, people start giving me excuses on, yeah, but if I'm truthful here, then I'm gonna have a negative consequence. Basically, yeah, ethics is hard because sometimes you have to take the L to maintain them. So people became scheming, they became deceiving because they don't want to take the L to stay ethical. They want to break ethics to stay ahead, right? So now we're in an age where even basic ethics is not well established among the people, right? So I can't even reliably teach the Dharma or talk about the Dharma with people when they can't even grasp ethics. They can't even grasp ethics. And it's not them, they're not to blame in the ultimate sense. Like I'm saying, conditions degraded society so far that basic ethics, basic restraint is virtually non-existent for most people, right? Like I said, it's easy to be ethical when everything's all right. But can you be ethical when you have to take the L? I could give examples. I'm not gonna give my own examples from where I took the L to preserve ethics. But it's hard. It's hard to preserve ethics these days because society punishes you for ethics, right? So you have to have a certain amount of restraint. You know, restraint on your greed, restraint on indulgence. You have to be restrained. You know, you have to take the L. You have to bear some amount of discomfort, you know, in order to act ethically, right? And I personally don't think society can be fixed. Like, I'm not trying to be a doomer here or anything. I just don't think it can be fixed. I think it has to degrade further for ethics. And I'm not saying I want it to degrade further. That's just how conditions are. People are not gonna just magically give to the poor, magically establish ethics, right? But for society to prosper, there has to be, poverty has to be ended as a condition. So the main condition is not survival, and ethics has to be firmly established so we don't have conflicts and lying and stealing and murder and sexual misconduct and all of that. So yeah, that's about why society is degrading. Why is society degrading? Because of the first condition, not giving to the needy. Because the needy need to survive, they start stealing, they start lying, they start killing, they start producing weapons. Those tendencies pass on into next lives. Now we have a big mix of people with very unethical tendencies deep down. And if you, and I'm sure, like, I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm sure most of you watching are not ethically pure in any way. I'm sure you tell lies. I'm sure you sometimes take what's not given, and I'm not talking just about money, I'm talking about time or anything small, like at a bar, you take a cookie when they're not looking, anything. I'm sure you take life. I'm sure a lot of you kill bugs or mosquitoes when they annoy you, not acknowledging that they're living beings as well, and you shouldn't just just kill them for no reason. Like, it's not out there annoying, let me kill them. You have a standard for life. Life is life. Try to gently escort them out of your residence or whatever. Don't just murder bugs. That's like, oh, so you're okay with killing some living beings but not others. You have standards. No killing. No killing. You're conditioning killing. You're conditioning killing with even when killing bugs. You're degrading your ethics. You will be reborn in a worse place. Right? So what I'm trying to say is, this is why society degrades. This is why ethics are impossible, because restraint is impossible. Because these days, if you act ethically, you get punished. So greed is rewarded, hatred is rewarded, manipulation is rewarded, ethics are punished. We live in an inverse society, and that's exactly what the Buddha predicted. After a while, when society degrades, ethics are gonna start to be seen as stupid, nonsensical. Why are you doing this? You're just gonna lose. And greed, hatred, and delusion are gonna be seen as the right way to do things. So it's all predicted. It's all exactly how the Buddha spoke. And this is the reason. And this is me talking about why society is collapsing due to Digha 27. That's kind of the main part I wanted to talk about today. Ethics and collapse, yeah. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just showing you the conditions for today's conditions, right? This is why it arose. Can we do anything to fix it? No, not really. What we can do is everyone for themselves can try to follow the 5 basic Buddhist precepts, which is no killing of anything, no intentional. It's all intentional. Like sometimes you might out of old habit smack a bug, but if you immediately after recognize that was unwholesome, I shouldn't do this, you're not in essence breaking the precept. It was a latent tendency. It was not intentional. If you justify these things, then you're breaking a precept. So try to guard your ethics, have some restraint. See, people aren't capable of restraint because they go off of their desires, right? Like they're like, yeah, I could not take the cookie from the bar, and not take what's not given, but I really want the cookie. No one's gonna know. Let me do it, just a little oopsie, And they don't even consider that as unethical. It's a small thing, but it's unethical. People don't even consider these things unethical anymore. Like even small things. Leadership is cooked. Leadership is greedy. They're not taking care of the people. They're not taking care of those in need. And that's why survival increases as a condition. And that's why unethical behavior increases, because people are now just trying to survive. And they've noticed that if you're a little bit unethical, it's easier to survive. So society is degrading. Not just the leadership, the people. And I'm not judging them. That's just how their conditions are playing out. So first you can free yourself to the point where you acknowledge that this is an unfixable thing and stop clinging to trying to fix the world. Also stop rejecting it. This is how the conditions are right now. Instead, see the conditions. See why it is like this. Understand. Understand suffering, its origin, its ending, and the path leading to its ending. The Buddhist path is not about forced renunciation. Renunciation is a natural byproduct of disenchantment. The mind stops playing with things that burn it. You have to see dukkha. So whenever you're doing something, stop at contact. Stop at feeling. Notice how pleasant feeling things condition craving. Notice how unpleasant feeling things condition aversion. Notice how you're willing to break ethical precepts to get something pleasant or avoid something unpleasant. Notice how towards neutral things you're completely ignorant. Notice these things. Notice the dukkha, right? When you, I give example from weed. When you smoke weed, notice the unpleasant aspects. Notice the unpleasant craving before you smoke. Notice how it's restless, how it's unpleasant that you crave it. Notice the smoke when it's unpleasant in your lungs. Notice how the mind is dull. Notice the slight contracted feeling. Notice the hangover after. Notice the unpleasant nature of things, and that's how the mind stops clinging and renounces naturally, right? the mind stops clinging by seeing dukkha. It does not stop clinging by I shouldn't do this. Like I like talking about weed because I had a big problem with that. Why can't you just cold turkey it? Because then your mind didn't properly understand why you're quitting, right? Your mind, what it did is basically I still want it, but I think it's bad, so it came from a view. So you forcefully renounce, right? And what that's gonna do, the craving remains unexamined. Your mind doesn't naturally let go due to seeing it's not worth it. It's forcefully forced to abstain. And that's not renunciation how the Buddha told it, and Buddhists often misinterpret this. But Buddha taught seeing, understanding. See the danger, understand desire, understand why it's dangerous, understand dukkha, and the mind naturally inclines to let go and renounce into seclusion. So the Buddhist path is not a path of forcing. That's feather 3. If mere practices led to liberation, then just renouncing everything would lead to liberation. But that's asceticism. Buddha said understand, and the mind lets go naturally. And that's exactly how you should practice it. By when you do something, when you do indulge, don't indulge blindly. Stay mindful and focus on the unpleasant aspects, the adinava, the unpleasant aspects of experience. And that will incline your mind to naturally let go. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching. See you in another video.